We are live,
Okay.
and we're going to go ahead and do this. There we go. Hi, Lori. Long time no see.
Hi, I know.
Weren't we just here yesterday?
We were. And last night.
And you know what?
morning.
And same problems as always.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, guess what today is?
June 15th.
That's right. That's right. It's June 15th. And you know what? If you watched the news last night, the local news, it was like they were treating this like some kind of crazy holiday. You know what? Starting at 4 a.m. this morning, we're going to broadcast the reopening of California. And what the heck would be going on at 4 in the morning that you need to be watching?
Well, I certainly did not set my alarm.
No, I slept till 6. I missed 2 hours of whatever that ABC and CBS and NBC felt that we needed to watch, plus all of their little affiliate stations too. So
well, it is a somewhat, Independence Day. It's like day one. Do you think we'll start doing like week 1 of after the reopening and week 2 after the reopening?
My God, as long as it's not daily, we'll be okay.
We should make a thing of that. Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about it for so long that it was just sort of like, okay, today's the 15th. Like, I don't know. I guess we're so in the know when it comes to the industry reopening conversations, not so much the guidelines, because those two were a moving target for the last 3 weeks.
Boy, were they.
But it just feels like we're so past this already. Okay.
Well, I think the worst part is we're all like, well, they're going to be changing everything up until the last minute because we just don't know what's going to happen. It's like, well, what changed?
Well, I think the first week of June, there was speculation and almost certainty of what was going to happen was outlined and not going to change. And then by like the 10th, it changed. So since the 10th, I haven't heard of any changes in real estate. But here we are today, and I think it will be a moving target over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think besides the rules, we talked earlier today, and we do talk not on Facebook Lives. We were having a conversation earlier today about, just some kind of, common sense, how people are feeling, and I know yesterday, you mentioned that you had seen something on social media, which I later saw too, of somebody ripping up peed forms and popping champagne, and you and I both were kind of like, I kind of like this pandemic business. I mean, not like I like a pandemic,
right?
But there was a lot of good that came, I think, from it. We developed some really good business practices that I think is going to be sad to see those all thrown away, just because the state says we're reopen. The truth of the matter is the disease didn't disappear. We have a lot of us are vaccinated, but a lot of us aren't. And people are still going to be sick. They had a thing last night on the news about that we're approaching 600,000 people being dead in this country. And, the last time I really paid attention to things, it was at 5,500, or no, 550,000, excuse me. And it's like, that was a few months ago, but that's still another 50,000 people died, so it's still out there. And I think that for all of the grand hoo-ha about, hey, we're all free to go do whatever, there's still people getting sick. There's still people dying. There's still people that, maybe they contract the disease and, they feel, relatively okay. But then down the road, they're getting these long haul symptoms. Like I have one friend who still can't smell, and they were sick in November, and it's a young person. So there's still a lot going on out there, and we need to be aware that everybody has a different concern level. We need to be cognizant of that. Some people who've been licking doorknobs the whole time are going to say, come on, friends, let's all go lick doorknobs. And then there's going to be the others in the corner, huddled, sucking their thumbs, saying, I can't deal with this. So we kind of need to be cognizant of that. And, I think that that's really the important thing to think about today. But we got rules.
There's definitely different tolerance levels, different thoughts. And, quite frankly, I mean, I wake up any given day of the week and it's like, today I want to be social and the next day I might not. So, I may have a different point of view each day. Yesterday I was out and about and went to visit someone at an office, and my first time there, and it didn't even cross my mind that I needed to put my mask on, because I'm starting to get in that mode of we don't need it. But I didn't even think about asking her ahead of time, and she didn't wear a mask and we were fine. We were both fine. But yeah, so I think in terms of some of the business practices, we did implement some really good practices that frankly protect the seller. They had more of a clue of who was coming into their property, who was qualified to be looking at the property to potentially make a purchase. And sure, it was a lot of paperwork and it was frustrating in the beginning as we tried to figure out how to facilitate that. And not everybody got the memo, including, a few months ago, people still didn't get the memo about PEDS. So I don't know what was up with that. But those were some good practices. And yeah, I'm sad to see those go. And I think for our buyers, it was helpful for us as well to make sure they were serious and not just, hey, let's go have something to do by go looking at houses. So I'm going to miss some of those practices. But yeah, there are some definite changes for our industry today. And we've got some links that we'll post in the chat after we're done. But essentially for showings and for open houses, you don't have to do any physical distancing anymore. You don't have any capacity limits except over 5,000 people.
That would be one mega open house.
If you're doing that and you have the space for it, please send Lisa and I an invite. We'd love to be there and hang out.
Especially if there's food and drink, but have it covered.
You and 4,998 of your friends. No cleaning requirements, although, houses should be kept clean. You don't need to post the rules of entry anymore. You don't need to require the PEDS. You don't need the broker best practices 4-page document that went to 2 pages. I think we ended up on 1 page, not even sure. None of that is required. All of the PED forms have gone away. So all of the COVID forms have gone away, including and especially the PEDS. And so all of that is now just back to how we used to operate. The only caveat at this point for our business is the masks. And the state has adopted the CDC requirements or recommendations, which it's weird because it's like, it's a recommendation, it's a guideline, it's not a law. It's strongly recommended, but we've adopted it almost as law. So it's a little confusing. But basically in terms of masks, if you have received the vaccination, you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to wear the masks out in public spaces. And if you're not vaccinated or not fully vaccinated yet, then you do need to wear it. So here's where it gets a little tricky because businesses can still require it. And so if you go to the grocery store, you go to, the dentist office, they can still require it. In terms of our business with showings and open houses, the rule is you can still require it. So have the conversation with your seller to determine whether you want to require it or not. Now here's where it gets confusing. If you are vaccinated, you don't need to wear the masks. If you are unvaccinated, you need to wear it. The business can make the decision with one caveat. If one person in a group, in a party, is not vaccinated, then everyone has to wear the mask. So if you're doing a showing, I don't know about you, Lisa, but I don't know if I want to ask my buyers, hey, are you guys vaccinated or not? I can ask them. It's allowed. It's not against HIPAA. There was a lot of confusion on that, but it's not against HIPAA. It doesn't apply to this. And so, you know, if you happen to know and everyone's vaccinated, then fine, you can go into the property. If somebody is not vaccinated, technically everyone in the party has to wear a mask. So what do you do at an open house? You have one party come in and they claim they're all vaccinated. Okay, cool, walk around. Next party comes in and someone says, no, I'm not vaccinated, or they're wearing a mask. So you ask, and they say, I'm wearing a mask because I'm not vaccinated. Then everybody has to wear a mask. So if you already have a party inside, now you would technically have to go back to that first party that's in there and say, hey, we have someone coming in who is not vaccinated, so you all need to put a mask on. Now, can you be traffic cop at the door and say, wait outside until the house is clear, and then you in your party with the one person who's not vaccinated, but then their whole party has to wear a mask, let them in? Maybe. It's a lot of policing. And what about children? Children under 2 do not need to wear masks. They're suggested not to because they could suffocate. So they're exempt, so it doesn't matter. But what if you bring in your 10-year-old? Somebody brings in their 10-year-old kid to look at the property. They're not eligible for vaccines between 2 and 12 years old. So if there's a kid, presumably then everybody's going to need to wear a mask. So that's going to be the tricky part.
So probably the prudent thing to do is when you're out with clients, either showing property or holding an open house, just make the rule, just wear a mask. I mean, as an agent, if I'm going to be going into homes and everything all day long anyhow, you know, even being fully vaccinated, I'm still kind of heebie-jeebied out. You know?
I mean, you're certainly increasing your chance of exposure, which, you know, if we look at it, and we hadn't even discussed this before, but if you think about it, the more you drive your car, the more you are at risk for a car accident. So the more you're going from house to house to house, the more exposure you're going to have, the more potential you could come down with the virus. You can still get the virus even if you're vaccinated,
and you can still transmit the virus if you're vaccinated. You know, I mean, I think we're going to see some really interesting stuff come up in the next few weeks when we start talking about the science of all of this.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, so those are the rules. So the rule is California is adopting the CDC guidelines. The guidelines on masks are, if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to wear it when you're out unless the business requires it. And if you're in a place where one person's unvaccinated, then everybody is supposed to wear it. So presumably, like, grocery stores are all going to require it, because how could they monitor it? If you have 50 people in the grocery store already who are vaccinated and one walks up who's not, you're not going to make the announcement, hey, put your masks on. We're going to see companies trying to figure out on an hourly basis how they're going to manage this, and probably be strict in the beginning and maybe loosen up later. But I think for our business, because we're not a traditional company where people are coming in and maybe staying and then leaving, coming in at different times, open house is the closest we have to that. I think the prudent thing to do is to set one rule. Now, you can do that. I would have it in writing from your seller. Your seller wants this, not agent wants this. It's, hey, seller, what would you like to do? Have the conversation however you want to have that conversation. But ultimately, if the seller agrees, have it in writing so you have that to turn to. But then still, how are you going to police it? If they're doing private showings and you're not there, you won't know. If it's an open house and you are there, do you want to be the bouncer at the door? How do you want to navigate that? There are the exemptions. You know, when you read the language, it says you can allow them to self-attest that they're vaccinated, and then you just take their word for it. So some people might choose to do that. Just say, you know what? They said they are. Who am I to require proof? I can ask, and you can require proof, but I don't know that people will want to do that.
Yeah, that's where it's going to get kind of squirrely. You know, I mean, this is going to be hard because, you know, like, think about Disneyland. Disneyland's reopened, people from out of state can come in. If you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask at Disneyland. And then like, so who's at the gate checking this stuff? And so now you've got intermingled vaccinated, not vaccinated. You kind of hope, we're kind of talking a petri dish. I think personal responsibility, which is how things should be done anyhow, should be looked at. And if I'm going to be with buyers all day long, I'm not going to hesitate to say, you know what, let's all wear masks when we go into the homes, just so we're protected ourselves and we're protecting anybody who lives there. It's the prudent thing to do, whether we're vaccinated or not. We get out the door, we take off the mask, we have a conversation, everything's fine. But if I'm in somebody's home, I should be respectful. And
yeah,
I think
very much like we wouldn't expect somebody viewing a property to go rummaging through all of their stuff. Now, sure, they open closet doors, you open kitchen cabinets, kitchen drawers, see how they function, see the size, but in a slight way, it's similar. You're going to respect their home. You're going to respect their space. And this should be the same, but
yeah,
we've already
it's like
seen
wearing
that
shoes
doesn't
or
always
boots.
happen. What?
It's like wearing shoes or booties in a listing. So, I mean, we kind of have the booty thing going on, and I'm not, equating this exactly, to the COVID rules. But let's say, somebody just says, I don't want people wearing shoes in my house. Well, is there a rule that says you can wear shoes in somebody's house? Is there a rule that says the booties negate the shoes? Because, in some cultures, they just don't want shoes in the house. But you do what the seller asks you to do. If the seller says, don't wear shoes in my house, then you don't wear shoes in the house. If you've been off tromping around and you got dirty feet, well, you shouldn't, or dirty shoes, you shouldn't be walking into somebody's house tromping dirt all through their house. So it's kind of like, if they want you to wear booties, you wear booties. If you got dirty shoes, you take your shoes off. You're in somebody's house, how hard is it going to be to wear a mask for 15 minutes and protect anybody and everybody in there? Because you don't know if their agent educated them properly too.
Right. And I think that's the key here is we don't know what we're going to encounter over the next few weeks because everyone has a different knowledge base of what's allowed, what's not allowed. Guaranteed, there are people who heard masks are not allowed and they didn't hear the rest of the sentence that it's for vaccinated people only. If they hear masks are not required, then I think I said not allowed. I meant not required. If they just heard that, then they're going to argue with you. And so be prepared when you are showing properties that the rules could be different from house to house and let your buyers know, hey, the rules could be different from house to house. So, maybe to Lisa's point, let's just have our own rule that we're just going to wear the mask. Then we don't have to worry about it because that will be the maximum compliance. As far as, your listings, understand people coming to show your property or at an open house, just wandering off the street, they're not going to have the same knowledge base as you. And so be flexible, educate, be prepared, be calm and be patient. Because I think there are going to be, those people who will silently protest, and there will be people who will vocally or physically protest. We all experienced it over the last year. Every single store we went to had a sign requiring it. But how many people walked in, and the moment they were past the person at the door, they dropped the mask below their chin.
Mm-hmm.
It happened every day from day one. So we just need to be prepared. And because of that, I hope we may see some modification to that over the next few weeks, because I think there will be a reality of, okay, well, it's now personal responsibility. If I happen to not be vaccinated, I should protect myself. It's not the government's job to tell me to protect myself at this point, because there are so many people vaccinated. It's my responsibility to protect myself. And if I am vaccinated, then, if I feel the heebie-jeebies when I go to one place over another, then I'll probably wear my mask. I mean, the mask will remain in my purse for the foreseeable future until we really don't need it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And, I mean, I think erring on the side of caution, encouraging your sellers to require, masks in their homes, I don't think is unreasonable, because we've also lost any ability to contact trace,
Right.
especially with open houses. Let's say your seller said, oh yeah, I'm not vaccinated, but it's okay. People don't have to wear masks. And then Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, they seller contracts COVID. And you just had an open house the day before. And you had, 73 people through an open house. I was like, oh, well, you're on your own, kids.
Yeah.
I can't tell you because I don't know who you are. We've just lost that entire ability to do that. And, so it's just kind of for self-protection, because can you imagine somebody comes into the open house, and personal responsibility is a relative thing. It's always, everything's fun and games until somebody gets hurt. Yep. And let's say somebody did the remote chance that one of those open house attendees contracted COVID from a home seller. And who are they going to come to look for? With their TV attorney. And those people, those TV attorneys, I learned a lesson about those TV attorneys from a friend. They're relentless. And when they say they can recover millions, they usually do. So, you're gonna have all kinds of people out there. I mean, we talk about our industry getting creative. Can you imagine the television lawyer industry right now?
Oh my gosh, I just got to pick a visualization of that. Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So you know what? Don't put yourself in that spot. Just tell everybody, wear masks, 15 minutes. It's not going to kill you. If it was going to kill you, you would have been dead last year. I shouldn't probably put it that way.
No, probably not. A couple other key points. Cities and counties can have stricter guidelines. I've yet to hear of any yet, but truth of the matter is I've not watched the news in 2 days. So
and all of those color-coded tiers for the state are gone.
Yeah. So you can door knock, and you can drop flyers. You can do all of that. All of the things everyone has been wanting to do is now allowed.
Gosh, can you imagine the number of people on front porches in the next week? You really need to sell your home.
How quick can I get a no soliciting sign made?
Yeah, and then this means you. Oh yeah. My gosh. Let's see. What else are in these rules here?
Yeah, both just kind of scrolling through. If you use the RLA CAA, the listing agreement COVID addendum, you basically need to terminate that document because it has the terms of who you would allow in, what vendors, for what activities you'd be allowing it. So you need to do a modification of terms. And all you need to put in the paragraph marked other is the RLA-CAA dated whatever, fill in the blank, is terminated. So that way those terms do not still apply. And as far as paperwork, that's the only thing you need to do.
But you do want to update any active listings that you have in the MLS where you're saying you require a PED and you're not going to give them a code until they send the PED. Everybody can go in the MLS and clean up all of their remarks today. Yeah. And then we have the agents that are just figuring out that they needed PEDs. So, hopefully somebody tells them they don't need them anymore. And that's going to be fun. We have a comment from Tony, our friend Tony at Tigar. Oh, let's just go ahead and have a giant maskless drink sharing open house party.
Oh, well, I still have coffee.
You know what? I still have coffee too.
Cheers to Tony. Good point. Where are we all meeting?
We're going to Tony's. Oh my gosh.
As far as offices, I haven't dug too deep in that, and I know OSHA was like going back and forth on some things last week, so I don't really have a lot to update. I would say, number one, we forgot the caveat at the beginning: talk to your broker. Who's your broker?
Who's your broker? Where's your broker?
Where's your broker?
Broker?
On everything we said today, to make sure that they don't have different company policies that may conflict or are different than these guidelines that we just shared from CAR.
And
But
if you're a broker, you better have updated policies for what you want to do with your office and your people.
yeah.
Because there was something, Lori, that, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but it was so important what you said this morning. You brought up the news story in Atlanta about kind of, shall we call it, mask fatigue. You want to share that story real quick?
Yeah, I heard this on the radio yesterday. So sometime within the last couple of days in Atlanta, there was a person that walked into a grocery store without a mask on, and the cashier, near the door, I suppose, just told this person, sorry, you need to wear the mask. It's required. And he argued, and then he left, and then he came back with a gun, shot the cashier. She died on site. There was an undercover cop who happened to be there who got involved. He was wearing a bulletproof vest, which I found interesting since he was a former cop. He wasn't undercover.
We didn't.
I'm sorry, I said he was undercover. No, he was a former cop, former detective or something. So maybe he's in a different capacity, but he had a bulletproof vest on. So he survived, was injured, and then the security guard there got involved and had a gun himself, allowed to carry the gun, and got injured as well. So, that really worries me, because we don't want to be the police, and now we don't want to put ourselves in an unsafe situation, because we certainly know there are people who will fight this, and they will fight it verbally or physically or with weapons. So be careful, everybody.
Yeah, and think about your plans for your office, if you have one, if you have a gathering place for your agents, and and everybody knows their agents, and you should know your agents and where they stand on things kind of by now, and be sure you have policies that everybody's comfortable with and you're comfortable with enforcing. I don't have to remind everybody about the shooting in Orange a couple of months ago that was at a real estate office, and it was a premeditated shooting where the guy locked the gates so people couldn't get out. There's a lot of very angry, frustrated people right now, and I think that's something that we really do need to take into consideration, especially with the reopening of open houses and such. We have a lot of safety guidelines that we are supposed to enact when we're dealing with the public, when we're dealing with strangers. I mean, when you really think about it, I didn't miss open houses at all, from the fact that there's just strange people out there in this world. There's so much frustration and everything, and we're sitting targets in empty houses with people we don't know, and and somebody might not like the fact that you're going to tell them they have to wear a mask to get into an open house. So just really be careful. Just be careful. Have people with you when you're doing an open house. Don't do it by yourself. Just really don't do it by yourself. And be cognizant. Have a plan in case somebody does get agitated and angry. Or if you're an agent and you see another agent in a predicament like that, don't leave the agent there. And I've had that happen before. I stayed with the agent until the party left, and I'm like, do you want me to call the cops? And she's like, no, it's okay, because she didn't want to cause a scene in the neighborhood, but she definitely had an unstable person there at the property, and I stayed with her until the person left. And we got to watch out for each other. So don't try to be the super brave person saying, oh, I can do this open house by myself, I'm okay. Have one of your affiliate partners come sit with you, and it probably still would be a good idea to get a check-in sheet, or have a sign in, and just be smart. It's a scary world. It's a scary world.
It is, and it's a good point about the sign-in sheet. The COVID sign-in sheet where you had to attest to not being sick or not having been exposed is not required. But if we go back to our previous practices, we were asking for people to sign in. Now, granted, we were asking for it to try to gather information, but you can certainly say, my seller would like to know who's coming into their home. And that's completely acceptable. Yeah, so I was talking about the office. I'm not 100% up to date on the office because that's governed by OSHA. What I understand at this point is it follows along with the same mask guidelines that if it's indoor, if everyone is fully vaccinated, it's not required. But if one person is not vaccinated, masks are required. Companies should, if you have an office, a company should check with the OSHA website and make sure they know if there are any other guidelines and any exemptions. If it's just a private business and you can do whatever you want, I don't know. As far as the association, obviously I'm president of Orange County Realtors. You mentioned we have Tony on. He's from TIGAR, the Inland Gateway Association of Realtors. The associations are watching this very carefully because things were changing, and it's not as simple to just open the door and we're open for business again. There's a lot behind the scenes that has to be evaluated to make sure that we protect staff and to make sure we protect members. And so in terms of Orange County Realtors, we're such a large association that the executive team and the board of directors and our CEO, he's part of the executive team, but along with the CEO, have been having these conversations and watching to see what CAR and NAR are doing and watching to see how the guidance was evolving. And so we are at Orange County Realtors, the office is not physically open for walk-ins, but they've been providing service for the last 15 months uninterrupted. If you need anything, you call. If you need to purchase something from the store, you make arrangements. We have lockers there. We're looking to potentially open early July because we wanted to wait until all of the final rules for June 15th were decided. It's really hard to, make any kind of announcement to our large group. And we know people don't read, or they read it only when they're interested. And if things were going to change, it didn't make sense. And I know one of the biggest questions, the most frequently asked questions, what about the marketing meetings? Well, so same thing with the marketing meetings. We are having the majority of these meetings, 6 out of 7 meetings each week are held at offsite venues, not at the association. So we've got to interact with those venues to find out, well, what are their requirements going to be? And so depending on what their requirements are, and then what do we need to do to protect the association, to protect the people and the business, those decisions have not been finalized either. And we're looking at, an early July open date. And quite frankly, I think these current rules will change in the next few weeks. So we might as well wait. We might as well wait till we know for sure what's going to happen. So that's kind of the latest on opening your office and then opening our association and the marketing meetings. But we do have activities scheduled for starting like in August. We have a couple of golf tournaments that are August and September, and I know the bowling tournament is in October. So those so far are still on the books, and we're planning on them unless something drastic changes.
Yeah, and everything can honestly change on a dime. We have a couple of comments. Carrie Finch says OSHA shall be meeting on the 17th to decide their new rules and regulations. So I guess they decided to wait until we reopen and see what 2 days brings.
Yeah, I had heard that it was going to be after the 15th. I didn't know the date, so thank you, Carrie, for that. And yeah, that'll be interesting because it's like, well, they're in flux. Businesses are in flux if they don't have those guidelines, but yet, they have what the state is saying. Yeah.
And, on the state website, they do have, in the car legal section, June 15th reopening, open house and showings. It's all there. You guys can pull this up. We'll probably put the link in after this because Facebook is still being Facebook, and I don't know if my comments will go live. In there, though, they do have a link to the current revised Cal OSHA COVID-19 prevention emergency temporary standards for offices. So it'll give you a link to this, which will outline the rules that pretty much Lori touched on here, talking about physical distancing and people not being vaccinated and all that good stuff. So it's all there, in the site. You may also have it in your email, check and see what CAR sent you recently. We do have a question in from Inez saying, will a simple email from the seller indicating they want the PED all forms suffice? Can we still make people sign PEDs? Just because the form's not in zip forms doesn't mean it's still not lingering around out there in the internets.
I mean, I suppose you could. I don't know that, I'm trying to think what Neil Kalin said on a recent webinar. I think he was suggesting sort of creating your own type of entry form, the sign-in sheet. But I don't recall if he said anything about the PEDs. Do you remember? Because the PED really is to attest that you're not sick.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of the problem I had with making them go away. I mean, just because we don't have to doesn't mean we couldn't still do it. I think, let's see. Oh, Brandy said, yes, that's what Neil said. You'd have to create your own. So, I mean, yeah,
Well, what would we put on it if one wanted to create their own PED? What would they put on it? I mean, at this point, there isn't any expectation to ask whether you're sick or not. There's sort of this, if you're sick, stay home.
Well, and Inez says it's still in zip forms.
Oh,
So maybe they didn't take it out. I mean,
yeah, they said as of the 14th, they were going to remove them all. I don't know. Inez, did you check in just in the forms and try to look for it? Or are you looking in a template that you already had?
yeah, if you've got one in a room already, I mean, they're still there to use. I mean, if you have, like I have like a little room for my client saying, it's so-and-so's showings. And I have the little template in there. And Inez is checking right now.
Okay. Yeah, because it was I haven't checked, but it was my understanding they were no longer going to be available. So that would be if you were to create a new one, you shouldn't be able to find it. But if you have it in a template, they don't automatically wipe them out of templates.
She says it's there. She says she typed it in and
well,
there it is.
Well, there we go. Well, then if you want to still use it, I would download it today.
Yeah, I mean, and
right
really, I think if you make it easy for somebody, I don't know why another agent would really be upset about it, because it's really, the thing, let's talk about the best thing about the PV. You were registering your buyer to say, I took them to this house. I took them to this house, took them to this house, took them to this house. What's not to like about that? I mean, it's something you could still do if you wanted to. Just say, hey, I want you to sign this, and I'm just going to send it to the listing agent just so they know, and that we put them on notice that we're not sick. We don't think we're sick. But I mean, God, wouldn't it be great? Oh, Brandy says all the COVID forms are still in zip forms.
Well,
wow, that was a big threat.
Someone forgot to click the button to remove.
But I mean, wouldn't it be great if we just had like a buyer registration form based off of the, something similar to the PED? How many procuring cause, hearings would that stop? I mean,
at least for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That was one thing that I am going to miss it. I know people were popping champagne, people were ripping up PED forms, and I guess whatever you need to do to, get eyeballs on your post. But there was good that came out of this. And it's sad that we're going to lose some of that professionalism, making appointments, sticking to appointments, proving we were there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think people were just so exhausted by it that as soon as the opportunity to not have to use them, including the people that created the forms, were like, you don't have to do it anymore. Party time.
Yeah, and I do have to say, how you mentioned part of you is happy about, the reopening, and the other half is kind of like, no. Yeah, it was weird. I was out showing property a couple of weeks ago, and I had 6 houses to show. 3 were appointment only, 3 were open houses. And I have to say, the sense of normalcy walking into the open houses felt really good. it kind of just felt like, wow, this is how this job used to feel. And at the same time, it was kind of like, yeah, but this is still weird.
Yeah.
This is weird.
Yeah. I woke up this morning really, woke up with the immediate thought, today's June 15th. And ironically, this day was like gonna be a day for a lot of different things. Everything was gonna be happening on June 15th, which was like a fresh start, a new, an ending, something new. It was just weird that this date kept popping up. So this date will forever be ingrained in my head. But my immediate thought was just to kind of reflect on the last 15 months and, what we lost and what we gained, and that the extrovert part of me is like, yeah, we can go do more things now. And then the introvert part of me is like, I kind of like telling some people I couldn't go because of COVID. I want to stay home. So if for all my friends out there, if you invite me to something and I say no, it could be I just don't want to go that day.
Yeah.
Not about you. It's just I'm in a funk today.
I think, we have to honor everybody's introvert side, because we all did get to channel our true introvert, which most people knowing me can't imagine that I actually have a lot of introvert tendencies. But I really kind of like it here at my home office. I'm used to it.
I think
Maybe I
what
want
it
to
is,
play, maybe I don't want to play.
yeah, I think we don't want to have to feel shamed that we don't want to go do something all the time, but we don't want to be told we can't. We want to have that decision-making power on our own, that freedom on our own to wake up and choose. Some days I wake up, I feel fat. Other days I wake up and I don't want to go anywhere. So let me be who I am.
Yeah, and my feet are just now starting to get acclimated back into heels. And I don't know, I have a very, very odd tan lines on my feet because I'm always wearing tennis shoes now. But it's going to be good. And I know, after I got my second vaccination and I sat down through my 10 days or 14, whatever many days it was. Yeah, that was very liberating, because I could, myself, I felt that I could walk without fear. And I appreciate that, but there's still things I like. And, we just need to be respectful of people and realize that people are at different places, and we do need to meet people where they are. The people don't need to meet us where we are. And, if somebody is, a 9.5 on the COVID afraidness scale, just because the state opened up doesn't mean that their fear is going to be alleviated. And the same with the person who's running a 1 on that scale. If they've been comfortable this whole time, we don't really need to be, at their comfort level. We need to be where we are. But, it's like, just be respectful. If they're of whoever it is, just be respectful. And, if somebody wants you to put on a mask, put on a mask. It's going to make them feel better. If you see somebody not wearing a mask and they have the right not to, based on the reopening rules, don't go into mask shaming. Either way, we just need to really be respectful of each other. There's a lot of stress out there. This market is creating a lot of stress. This reopening is going to cause a lot of stress for a lot of people. And if we can just be cognizant of that and be a good person, just be a good person, try to be a good person.
Yeah, we're going to have a transition period. People need to adjust. And as you were describing that, I was thinking of the Band-Aid. Some people just rip it off and others do it really slow. We need to remember that everyone kind of goes at their own pace, and things will transition, including our feelings and our behaviors, our attitudes. And so hopefully, yeah, just be kind to each other.
Yeah, do unto others. So, well, with that note, we're just 12:49. I think we did pretty good on this. We've had quite a few people hang with us the whole time, and I'm sorry to those that had technical difficulties. Facebook is being so weird. That's all I can say about that. So if you're having trouble, catching any of our live talks, just hit refresh if you're on a desktop, go out of the app and come back into it if you're on a phone. Mine's still acting up. I know I've had a couple of people, texting me here saying that they've had trouble. I see one of them's on, so yay. But this is stuff that we can't really control right now. Facebook is causing me stress.
Stop talking negatively about them. They're gonna censor us and kick us off.
Maybe, I don't know. We find a new venue.
I don't know how it works, but
Yeah, you're probably the introvert of Lori saying, please do that. Oh, heavens. But anyhow, we so appreciate you guys being here. Happy reopening, whatever that means to you. And
reopening, coffee cheers.
Reopening.
It's too early for cocktails.
That's right.
For a little while still.
For a little while. Well, it is 5 o'clock somewhere, but
we're on East Coast time. 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes. Okay, so everybody
have an hour and 10 minutes.
Wait, we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait for California time.
Thank you for enduring us on a Tuesday. Tuesday afternoon. I had like no energy when we started this, and now I'm like, woo!
See, it gets you going, gets the adrenaline going. So
I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this business goes.
Yep. Cheers to real estate.
Where life takes us in the remaining months of 2021.
That's for sure. Okay, everybody, we'll see you later. Have a good day.
See you next time. Bye.